our story. It's an epic, stretching back 6 million years. And today, we're going on a journey to find the single moment, the one decision that truly made us human. This is a story about survival, about innovation, and about how we became the species we are today. Let's dive in. You know, when you boil it all down, this whole incredible 6 million year journey, it really comes down to this one question. What was that one pivotal choice, that one moment that put us on the path to becoming, well, us? That's what we're here to find out. So, where does it all begin? Well, it doesn't start with some big heroic leap forward. Nope, it starts with a crisis. Our story begins with the world our ancestors knew literally falling apart around them. Just try to picture this. For millions of years, the dense forests of Africa were home. They were safe. But then, the climate started to change, and those lush green forests began to shrink, giving way to these wide-open, dangerous savanna grasslands. The entire world they knew was just disappearing. And this created an absolutely impossible choice. Life up in the trees meant safety, it meant food. But the ground, the savanna, that was a whole different story. Constant danger, food was hard to find, and there was absolutely nowhere to hide. They had no choice but to leave the canopy and face this new world. And this is where everything changes. To survive out there on those plains, our ancestors were forced into a decision that would define our species forever. They started to stand up. They began to walk on 2 feet, and that, right there, freed up their hands for the very first time in our entire lineage. But don't get the wrong idea. This wasn't about making things easier or more convenient. This was born out of pure, raw terror. The only way to see over that tall grass, to spot a predator before it spotted you, was to stand tall. It was fear, that constant gnawing fear that literally straightened our spines. Okay, so now they're standing up. Great. But they're also a walking target. Slow, weak, and completely exposed. The next massive challenge was just figuring out how to survive out in the open without any real weapons. Their only hope? Something new that was just starting to develop. A mind. I mean, look at this survivor's toolkit. It's not much, is it? No sharp claws, no powerful teeth, basically nothing. Their one and only advantage was that developing brain. So they had to get smart. They started living in groups for safety, taking turns guarding each other at night, and doing something incredibly dangerous, scavenging meat from the kills of much bigger predators. Now, this whole high-risk, high-reward strategy of scavenging, it had this unbelievable side effect. All that protein from the meat started to fuel a massive growth spurt in the human brain. They weren't just eating to survive anymore, they were literally building bigger, more complex minds with every generation. And with that bigger brain came the first real light bulb moment. It wasn't a physical change this time. It was an idea that would create a sound that would echo through history and change our destiny for good. We can actually zoom in on a very specific moment in time, about 2.5 million years ago. This is when a brand new sound was heard for the very first time on planet Earth. The sound was this. Kt, kt. That sharp cracking sound of one stone hitting another. Can you imagine the ancient silence and then kt? It was a sound of our first technology being born. We call this an old WAN tool. And yeah, I know, it just looks like a broken rock. But this is everything. That sharp edge created by that chut sound was more powerful than any claw or any tooth. It was an idea brought to life. And think about the brain power this required. This wasn't some happy accident. It took foresight, the ability to see a tool hidden inside a rock. It took planning, choosing the right stones, the right angle, and then insight, realizing that this sharp edge could slice through an animal's hide. This is the first hard evidence of our ancestors thinking about the future. So now we've got tools, we're getting smarter, but there's still one huge, terrifying problem that came back every single day: the night. The next great triumph would mean taming one of nature's most powerful and frightening forces. The difference is, well, it's night and day, literally. Before fire, night was pure terror. You'd hide in the dark and just hope nothing found you. But after we learned to control fire, around 800,000 years ago, everything changed. We went from being the hunted to being the masters of the darkness, all thanks to a circle of light. Fire was a total game changer. I mean, the gifts just kept on coming. Safety from predators, obviously, warmth from the cold, light to make the day longer, and get this, cooked food. Cooking made food way easier to digest, which gave us a huge energy boost that scientists think fueled even more brain growth. But maybe the most important gift of fire wasn't physical, it was social. The campfire became the center of the community. It was a place to gather, to share food, to feel safe together. It's right here, around these ancient flames, that we really started to become us. This is where the first stories were probably told. Fire gave us the very first feeling of home. Okay, our ancestors had conquered the darkness. They were smarter, more social. But of course, nature wasn't done testing them. A new global challenge was on the horizon, one that would push them out of Africa and across the entire planet. The Earth's thermostat just plummeted. Massive sheets of ice began to crawl down from the north. The entire world was gripped by a great ice age. This was the big one, the final exam for our species' survival. So what did they do? Did they hunker down and wait it out? Nope, they walked. This kicked off the Great Migration. Forced out of their homeland, they spread across the globe with incredible resilience, adapting to everything from icy plains in Europe to dense forests in Asia, and eventually all the way to the Americas. And these new worlds they found, well, they came with new monsters. The lions and hyenas back on the savanna were scary, sure, but they were nothing compared to the Ice Age megafauna. We're talking woolly mammoths, saber-toothed tigers. You couldn't take one of those down by yourself. No way. Survival now depended on perfecting the art of cooperation. And somehow they did it. Against all the odds, a changing climate, terrifying predators, a frozen planet, these small, fragile ancestors of ours hadn't just survived. They had triumphed. They had walked to nearly every corner of the Earth. They had conquered the planet. Their incredible, millions of years-long epic of survival was finally complete. But that just raises a whole new question, doesn't it? After all that time spent just surviving the world that nature gave them, what would it cost to start building a world of their own? Well, that's a story for another time.